Good evening, my name is Rachel Schwartz and I am here with Solomon Davis and Bree Dinwiddie, who are running for MSA President and Vice President. So good to have you guys here.
Thank you for having
us. So can you tell me about the platform you were running on for the 2019 MSA election?
Yeah, so there's a lot in the platform, but basically to put it in like sort of like a gist, it's really about we named it All In because we're trying to represent all students, and there's a lot of issues on there ranging from campus safety to health to affordability and things like that.
Yeah, and just to kind of go off what Solomon said, we have things about transparency, collaborative efforts with MSA and other smaller parts and bigger parts on campus. So, yeah.
So I know you mentioned that your slogan is all in, and kind of going off of that, oftentimes students don't know what MSA is. So how do you plan to establish a two-way communication with students and the government?
Yeah, and actually, when we go around and speak to student groups, one of the first questions we ask is, who knows what MSA is? And the numbers are sort of what you would expect, not many know. And the way that we want to establish a two-way communication is, one, we want to focus our efforts on being transparent. So a public email server, a calendar, as well as regular video updates that we can share with other students, and then inward.
Yeah, and while we're just like educating about our slate, we're also educating about MSA and what all they can do as well.
You mentioned in your campaign fixing the transit system and contracting with companies. How do you propose going about this?
Yeah, so transportation is something that we spend $1.2 million of student dollars go to it, and it's not something that many students usually know that their student dollars are going towards. And one of the companies that I've been in conversation with for like a year is a Gotcha Group. And so basically what we're saying is, let's innovate the transportation space. If the City of Columbia won't necessarily make transit better, then let's reach out to companies to do that. And there are companies who specialize in this area and work with universities all the time.
Yeah, and just educating them on the prices that they do pay for transportation too, because like we said, we want to be more transparent. So, yeah.
How exactly do you plan to educate students on health insurance as well as provide it?
Yeah. I guess I'll back up a little. So one of the things that we sought to do when crafting this platform is reaching out to every single group administrator that it affects. And so we sat down and we had a conversation with ASUM, and then I also reached out to the director of the student health. We reached out to the director of the student health center. And basically what we want to do is move some of those laws around virtual visits and then use the student health center to say, hey students, this is the insurance, this is what you have, this is what it covers, and things like that. Because those stats are already available, so just leveraging that data.
Let's discuss your approach to a more sustainable Mizzou. In your campaign, you talk about reducing plastic on campus and offering just water. In what ways are you going to try and implement this?
Do you want to take it?
Go ahead. I mean, you work a lot with CDS.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So sustainability is actually something I care about a lot. I passed a resolution in MSA that was to tackle the plastic bag use that we see in CDS locations, and I sat down with the director and we had a conversation. And she shared with me that they do care about sustainability, and there are also challenges that they face, being that with the enrollment decline, they don't have as many students who are working in their facilities. And so to answer your question about how do we plan to go about it, we presented our solution already in front of CDS, and they're looking at the numbers, and they've done the business plans in the past. And so if we were to be elected, we would just follow up with them and say, how can we actually move this from business plan on paper to execution?
Yeah, make it a more collaborative effort.
Yep.
I like that. In recent years, there have been gun threats on campus, and as mentioned in your campaign, multiple school shootings. Why do you believe implementing safety videos and apps will protect students?
So, campus safety is a thing that comes up all the time, and whether that is the recent increase in school shootings across this country or just walking home at night. And we believe that there are tools that this campus is paid for and that they're putting out there, and that we need to revamp them. So we literally just walking into this interview, the chancellor sent an email about safety, and that shows you that this is something that is on the minds of every student. And we want to work with MUTV, and I've already had a conversation with Chief Swanton about our plans, and he was like, yeah, these are good things, and these are things we could do.
As you stated on your website, on average, graduates from the University of Missouri are $21,844 in debt. This is a fact that is not brought to attention. How are your strategies to reduce student debt?
So, student debt is, I'll back up. College affordability in itself is a thing that is a focus of our campaign. It's something that the university has been working on. And the way that we want to do that is by eliminating some of the fees that you see in the classroom. So classroom technology standardization, so that you never have to go into a class and have a Top Hat and a Clicker subscription, and a syllabus bank that will allow students to audit a class before they enroll, so they don't end up at that deadline and they're like, oh, I won't be successful in this class, and they've already lost that money.
Yeah, and just like throughout every platform that we have, it's about educating students and educating them about the resources that our university already has and things that we know that will better them too. That way they're not spending those outrageous prices.
All right, we're going to shift gears a little bit to some more personal questions. So, in your campaign video, Solomon, you mentioned you were the president of Hatch and a senator for MSA. How have these roles prepared you for the role of MSA president?
So I think first I'll back up. Hatch, well, it was a great experience to be president of Hatch. And, you know, I love all of the hatchlings that live there with me. And, you know, when we were in Hatch, it was also at a time of some division here on campus as well. The presidential election was coming up, and so we really came together and, you know, sent this message of unity and that this is our home. And so we all have various differences, but we are all Mizzou at the end of the day. And so that was sort of like one of my early experiences with leadership on this campus. And then at MSA, I have just had the great opportunity to interact with administrators, people from other universities, and, you know, city officials to be able to deal with the issues that students face. And, you know, I wake up and I go to bed thinking about, oh, like, how can we improve the life of students? And I think that that is something that is needed for this position, and MSA gave that to me.
Bree, you have experience as a summer welcome leader. How does that make you more in touch with the community?
Yeah, I also think, well, just like Solomon said, just to roll back a little bit, before getting Summer Welcome, I didn't know much about the university. I wasn't involved much. So Summer Welcome gave me the opportunity to learn as much as I could, and I think that's good going into this role, so I know more, and I'm more educated that way, that I'm not just educating myself, but I'm educating others as well.
What inspired you both to run as vice president and president of MSA? And why do you believe you two are a good fit for these positions?
Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
It's only right.
I believe what inspired us is that these elections happen every single year. And every single year you hear students saying, we don't know what MSA is. You hear the same complaints and the same problems. And more importantly, what we want to do is set Mizzou up for success for the future, and address some of the problems that we are seeing now and that we will see in the future. And then in terms of, you know, how we work well together, just a little, I'll give you a little insight. So, you know, back in January, Bree and I had a conversation about us doing this and, you know, trying to advocate for students, and we talked on the phone, and I immediately got off the phone with her, and I said to my brother and my dad, I was like, she's perfect, she is the one, we mesh so well, because, you know, at the end of the day, like, in that conversation, we shared some of the same goals and ideas for what this campus could be and what this position could be.
Yeah, and just going off what Solomon said, I think we're both very passionate individuals, and we're both dedicated to the university. We see concerns, and we have issues that we know that will resolve these concerns. And I think that we work well together, just like you said. Like, we are always listening to each other, and I feel like it takes good communication to be leaders on campus.
How do you feel you can represent underrepresented groups here at Mizzou?
Well, just by being an underrepresented student myself, I'm heavily involved in the Multicultural Center. I volunteered at the RSVP Center. And just by having the identity that I have, I know that I have like the outer perspective. So no, we can't speak for all students, but we can try to advocate for all students.
Yeah, and I think that it really just comes down to sort of listening. Like all you need to do is listen. You can listen to what various groups want with various students, and if you listen with the true and honest intent of trying to serve them and to improve their lives. And I think that we're two people who, we hear a complaint or we hear a problem and we try to fix it.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that. Who is your target audience, and how are you appealing to them?
I think all of campus is our target audience. We don't have a necessarily one group that we want to focus on. We have issues in our platform and we have resolutions for different people on all of campus.
Yeah, and I think, something we see typically in student body elections is that campaigns try to target certain groups and they try to do that with their policy. And we really were like, this is not about one group versus the other. This is about all students. And so our platform is something, affordability affects all students. Being able
Absolutely.
to walk across campus and feel safe affects all students. And so how we're going to go about that and how we're going about that is sort of, I think, changing the game by trying to be as transparent as possible, by putting our message out there and inviting students to respond.
Yeah, it's about being all in for everyone on campus.
Yep.
All right, one last question. What are your goals for the 2019-2020 school year?
Oh my goodness. Goals. I think is to just continue my advocacy work. If it doesn't go the way that we plan, I still want to be able to put myself in spaces and still be a better advocate, a better ally, and still put my energy into the issues that we saw on campus before.
Yeah. And regardless of the result, everything on our platform, as I said, we've already put in front of administrators and we've already put in front of groups. And so I'm committed to making sure, I think we're both committed to making sure that those things get done because they are important to students and we cannot just keep going year after year without students' problems being addressed.
Yeah, we want to be dedicated, and I think that it shows throughout our platform.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. So again, this has been Solomon Davis and Bree Dinwiddie, and they're both running for president and vice president together. I'm Rachel Schwartz, and back to you guys.